What is going on YouTube? Oh, wait, what is that? That's interesting. What's going on, guys? We are live. One bang. What? What? There we go. That's the one I like. What's going on, Ray? If I if I can give anybody any advice whatsoever, this is it. Whatever you do, whatever you do, don't get food poisoning when you're out here on the road. It's not fun at all. So I'm in day 2 of this. Just bubble guts city, man. Just almost every rest area, gotta pull in. What's going on, Gene? What's going on, Brian? You learn to not have eats with Greg. Yeah. All water coming out the wrong way. Something like that, man. I'm exhausted. Freaking burned out, all that. But still running. I just ran all night. Got up here to Coopersville, Michigan. I ran from Lancaster, New York over to here. And I used up my whole clock because I had to stop so many times to use the bathroom. But I made it. I'm still 4 hours early for my appointment for my pickup. So I'm at the shipper here. It was kind of a long deadhead, but the load pays for it, so not a big deal. The load covers it, so. Yeah, man, there ain't no sick days out here. Truck smells great. Actually, it does, man. I got one of these. Gel things. Smells great. Lease, purchase, or auction? I don't know what that question is in reference to, William. I need more details. Oh yeah, this is a Q&A today. I forgot. This is a Q&A. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast I did with Matt Monero. It was fun sitting there with him and discussing trucking and stuff like that. Yeah, never trust a fart. When you slam 20 Jaeger bombs, it takes a couple days. I've been there. I don't do that. I don't drink like that anymore. Can't do it. Don't want to do it. The problem with auctions. Here's the deal with auctions. You don't, in my opinion, you don't really get enough time or documentation of the maintenance of the truck and the ability to really scrutinize it one-on-one. Because when you're at an auction and they open up the lot for everybody to look at the vehicles, you're in there with a bunch of other people and everybody's looking at the same equipment, so it's a hype zone, and you may buy something that you actually really didn't want to buy because everybody else was looking at the same truck. It's like, oh, it must be a great truck because everybody's looking at it, right? I've never bought a truck from an auction, but I've bought other things from auctions before in the past, and I've watched a lot of auctions and stuff. But Me personally, I wouldn't want to buy a truck from an auction because you have limited time to look at the equipment. Everybody else is looking at it. Somebody could outbid you. So you put all this research and time into equipment that you're looking at on their lot, and then somebody else outbids you anyway. I don't like that environment. Now, there are chances to pick up some stuff on the cheap, but you get what you pay for when it comes to a truck. Okay, so be really careful with that. And I don't suggest going to an auction unless you've really got a handle on it and you know what you're doing. You know exactly what you're looking for when it comes to the specs of the truck and all that kind of stuff. So by all means, feel free to go to an auction and look at stuff. But if you actually start bidding on something, you better make sure that you know you have good research on it, whether it's actually going to be a good truck or not. Or maybe you're just buying it for parts or something, which is perfectly fine. But I wouldn't buy my first truck from an auction. I don't think. I mean, it just depends on what they have there. But I mean, if you're talking about like Ritchie Brothers, most of what I saw they had last time was a lot of Pro Stars with the Max Force, and you don't want those anyway. So, what's up, Juan Romero? You had the deadhead from Washington to Greeley, Colorado. Well, that's good. As long as it pays, there's nothing wrong with deadheading as long as the load covers your costs to deadhead. Plus, I mean, I make profit on the deadhead as long as the load, the total miles for deadhead and loaded miles covers the rate that I need to get. So it's not a big deal. A lot of people complain about deadheading. I actually don't mind it because you're getting better fuel economy when you're empty. There's kind of a drawback if there's really bad wind or something, but you get better fuel economy when you're empty. If you're getting paid for all those miles, or you figure out the rate, however much the load is paying, as long as it covers your cost to do it, then it's not a bad deal. And you can make a little bit of profit on the deadhead as well, because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to get that load, right? So if you had to start over in today's trucking market, which way would you go strategy-wise from no CDL to 100K a year? Lease purchase, 1099, team driving. Me personally, I don't have somebody to team drive with, so I wouldn't be doing team driving. But if all the circumstances were the same that I had before, which was bad credit, no money for a down payment, etc., then I would probably end up doing a lease purchase like I did to begin with. Started in a lease. Really, I didn't even start the lease purchase until I was 2.5 years into a lease. So it took that time to get my credit fixed, get my finances in order, all that kind of stuff, before I finished the lease and then purchased that truck. I did a whole video on exactly how I did it, and if you haven't seen that video, it's called Lease Purchase, How I Did It, and it's on this channel. You can scroll down and find it. It's down there. It's a few video it's a ways down there in the list, but if you scroll down, you see a lot of older videos kind of like that. Team driving ends in murder charges. Can you make money with a day cab? Sure. Most solo owner ops don't make 100K. I would say on average, a solo owner op, after all expenses, probably does about 75 to 80,000 net as a solo owner op running ELDs, general freight, flatbed, reefer, dry van, no oversized, no super specialized stuff. If you want to make more than that, obviously you're getting into hazmat, maybe DOD freight, whatever. But pulling a reefer, you're probably going to pull in 75 to 80K net a year. That's after all expenses. And that's with the paid off truck. So, can you do more than that? Absolutely. But if you're going to go home any decent amount of time, that's about, that's a pretty solid number of what you could expect to make as a solo. Now, team, obviously that goes up because it's all about utilization percentages, okay? So if the truck is always being utilized, it's always rolling, okay? And you don't have to go home because you're both together, you and your wife or whatever. Um, you and your significant other running the truck together is honestly the best combination you can have for utilization, because let's face it, it doesn't matter what your rates are or what your net is. If the truck's not rolling, you're not making money. I was talking to somebody earlier about this where it's like, some guys come out here and they think, oh, I'm going to go get this load that's 300 miles and pays $3,000. And then I'm done for the day. It's like, okay, I'm going to knock out that 300-mile load and I'm going to go get another one too. Just because you made what you quote unquote need to make for the day doesn't mean you stop rolling. Like, you got to maximize your utilization and get the most miles in that you can for whatever the rates are. So if you get a load that's 100 miles and pays $3,000, which is going to be pretty rare to find something like that, but it does exist occasionally. Okay, you get a load that's $3,000 for 100 miles. You knock that one out and you go get a couple more. I mean, you don't stop just because you made a certain amount of money. That's why it's just like, okay, you figure out what your numbers are, and then you just make sure that your utilization is as close to 100% as possible so you can maximize on that. So it's always about miles, okay? You want to run as much as possible, and you want to get the maximum rate possible for those miles. So, but at the end of the day, you're going to average out at a certain rate, and then you just know, okay, I'm going to make this all miles after everything averages out. Well, we just need to make more miles. It's a really simple math problem, and it's about volume. So the more miles you're doing as a single truck, multiple truck, fleet, whatever, the more money you're making. Now, obviously, you want to make the most per mile possible, but you got to be rolling. That's why I prefer to have a dispatcher or something like that, because it keeps us rolling. I don't have to spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day looking for loads. Somebody else is doing that job for me, so I can focus on running, taking care of my drivers, and the other trucks are staying running. Okay, because it's all about utilization percentage. If you're spending 3, 4 hours a day looking for a load after you're empty, you could have been running those 3 or 4 hours, or sleeping, or something else. So that's a big key factor to this when you're looking at, oh, I want to pick my own freight, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you can't plan it out in advance, then you really hurt yourself, because if you don't start looking for a load until after you're already empty. Like, if you want to pick your own freight, you got to look ahead and make sure, obviously, that, it's kind of hard to do that because, like, what if the truck breaks down or whatever and you already committed to these loads? So it's kind of a balancing act. But if you've got a system set up where you've already got a dispatcher that's already actively looking for future loads while you're working, okay, you're out here driving and somebody else is already looking for loads for you, it just takes that off your shoulders. You don't have to worry about your next load, okay, and spending extra 2 or 3 hours every day looking for your next load, because you're already running and somebody else is taking care of that. So that's how you maximize your utilization. That's something that's really important. There's loads that pay $30 a mile. I'm sure there are. Yeah, I mean, they're usually much shorter runs that pay like that. I've had loads $10, $15 a mile before. But it's not about that. It's not necessarily about the rate per mile. It's about how much you're making per day, too. So, like, if I can do a load that's like I said, like 100 miles or 200 miles, and it pays, $1,000 or $2,000, I'm gonna haul that load, and then I'm already planning in my head, okay, once I get rid of this, I can go grab another load, because I'm still gonna have freaking 8 hours left on my clock, right? Or 7 hours left on my clock. So if you have time available on your clock, you should be rolling. You should be doing something. Otherwise, you're not maximizing your utilization and you're losing money, whether you think so or not. Because you can sit there and think, oh, I made $3,000 today, I'm good. that's a false positive, because you could have made probably another $3,000 if you still had 7 hours left to run. That's just how I look at it. But any other questions today? I'm not going to be on here very long because I got to go. I got to go lay down, man. I got to sweat this thing out. But basically I got food poisoning, so I ate at this a friend of mine picked me up in Detroit, and we went to this restaurant, and I don't know whether it was the food from the restaurant in Detroit or if it was the roller dog hot dogs I had earlier, but in that day, but something screwed me up. It made me sick as a dog, and I was throwing up everywhere, and just, you know, whatever I eat just goes straight through me. So it's cold sweats and freaking low energy, just terrible. You try to run 400 to 600 miles per day. Yeah, I mean, you got to utilize every hour that you can to be rolling. You know, it's not just, and that's not a company driver mindset. That's a, hey, you know, if I can get these rates up towards $3 and there's some short hops, well, then I can do 2 or 3 of them a day, maximize my utilization. Now you're making bank, dude. You're already on the road, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, you're already out here in the truck to work. Like, I'm not out here to relax and chill. Like, I'm out here to work. So why am I? If I want to relax, I'll go home. You know, like, I'm out here to work. I'm out here to hustle, make money, and build my company. It's not about being greedy. And for lack of a better word, greed is a great thing, because it creates jobs. It creates the opportunity to give to charity, because it's called cash flow. Y'all got me triggered with that bullshit. That's not bad at all for half a year, bro. That's not bad at all for half a year. You know, you should be doing, you know, as a solo, you should be doing anywhere from 200 to 250,000 gross revenue as a solo owner up. That's pretty standard, you know. You'll have these guys come at you sideways and say, "Oh yeah, I make that in 3 months." Blah blah blah. Bullshit. Show me your bank account then. They won't, by the way. They aren't going to show you nothing. So don't even waste your time. But that's not bad, dude. And at the end of the day, if you're happy with what you're making, then that's all that really matters. I'm just telling you guys, for the guys that want to know, like, hey, how do you maximize the money out here? You gotta stay running. You gotta stay loaded. I make that in 3 months. Chuck Gar, $5. I appreciate that, man. That'll help pay for the $10 bottle of Pepto-Bismol I had to buy from the frickin' truck stop. He says, big jump when you get your own authority. Absolutely. Oil-fueled trucks do make a killing, but they also cost a killing to stay up, maintaining. Higher fuel costs running off-road, higher maintenance costs um, etc. So here's the secret to trucking. If it pays more, okay, if it pays more money to do it, then that means it costs more money to operate. Yeah, it comes with, you get your shot glass. You can tell I don't even use this. I just straight drink from the bottle, dude. I ain't got time for this bullshit. Anyways, yeah, the secret in trucking is if it pays more, then it costs more to do it. Okay, that's the key here. So, sure, you can make a killing out there in the oil field, but oil field is a whole different animal when it comes to, I mean, you're out remote locations, you know, all that kind of stuff, off-roading. It's really, really, really hard on the equipment. Now, if you just want to be a company driver out in the oil field, you can make damn good money doing that, but it's hard work, you know. It pays good for a reason. It pays good for a reason. So just be aware of that. And when you get to a certain point, this stuff don't even work anymore, man. I'll tell you why I don't respond. One, it's not worth my time. Two, actually, you know, that's all I need. It's not worth my time to respond to people's drama. It's not IBS, man. I got that damn roller grill food poisoning, man. Pretty sure that's what it was. I would go, honestly, I would go with the bank loan because, yeah, I might have to stock up on some charcoal tablets. What did he say? The other issue with the oil field is, and I had a guy tell me why, buying the long nose trucks for the oil field is a strategy because of the resale value. Because in oil field, it goes up and it goes down, completely down. Okay, so oil field will be popping off for 8 months to a year, and then for 8 months to a year. So you got to be able to flip that truck back and get that resale value back out of the truck, or else you're screwed. So if you buy a truck that doesn't have the higher resale value, yeah, that can screw you. That's why they do that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, but that's a strategy to it. Okay, because they know in the back of their mind that oil field doesn't stay up forever. It swings really hard, so you have to be prepared for that. Make your money out in the oil field when you can, and then when you can't, go be a company driver somewhere, and then when it comes back, go do it again. You know, or have it to where you use the truck for OTR as well. I don't know, but the reason I would go with bank loan over lease is because if you've got a legitimate business and you can show the cash flow and financials, if you can show good financials for your business, which if you're just starting out, you're not going to have that. But if you can show good financials for your business, you can get, say, a 6.5% interest rate commercial vehicle loan versus a 10.5 or an 11.5% lease purchase interest rate. Okay, so that's a lot of money when you break down the numbers on a truck that costs the same. You can just do the math yourself on $100,000 truck. The interest rate per year at 12% versus 6%. Okay, if you have good financials and personal credit, etc., because you're going to probably have to use a personal guarantee on it, and you're going to have at least 10% down. Okay, on your first one. So, you do that through a bank loan. If you got a good bank that you work with already, and you get 6.5 or even 7% interest versus 12%, that's a huge amount of savings that you can take that savings that you were going to spend anyway on interest, put it back into the business and get another truck. Okay. When I did my first truck, it was on the lease purchase. It was $695. It was $695 a week for 2 years, and then that was it. No balloon payment. The last payment was $100, whatever. Let's see if there's other questions here. When purchasing a used truck, how can you calculate engine hours, the miles on the truck? I don't want to buy a truck with too many hours on it. The ECM report. The ECM report will tell you all that. But how you would calculate it is you would take the hours, okay? What I would do is I would take the hours on the motor, and you got to figure out what the average moving speed was for the truck when it was actually moving. Okay, so you can be conservative with it or whatever, but you can use like 60 miles an hour. Okay, so if you multiply the hours on the motor times 60, which for times 60 miles an hour, and then you'll get a total amount of miles. Then you'll get a total amount of miles. If that number is extremely high compared to the actual odometer, then you know they idled a lot. Now, if it's really close to the odometer reading, then you know they didn't idle that much. That's how you figure it out, okay? And you can use a lower number, like say a 55 mile an hour average, if they didn't drive that fast. And usually, if you talk to the owner or whoever's selling the truck, if you're buying it from a dealer, they're not going to know. But if you're buying it from an individual, they'll probably tell you, yeah, I ran 70 everywhere or whatever. Then you can do like a 64 mile an hour average and multiply your hours on the motor times the speed, their average speed, and then that'll give you a number of estimated miles the truck should have on it if they didn't idle. Okay, and if it's significantly higher, like 100 or 200K estimate higher than what's actually on the odometer, then they idled a lot. That's how you figure that out. When I was on the lease purchase, I was bringing home anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800 a week. It wasn't amazing, but it was decent enough to get through it and pay the truck off and all that kind of stuff. Did you 1099 your first driver? No. We've been W2. We've been W2 since the beginning, and right now we're using Intuit, QuickBooks, and spreadsheets, of course. What's with the black and white? Because I can. What are you going to do? Anyway, that's how I would figure out the hours on the motor versus how many miles they actually drove versus how much time the engine was used. Okay, so if you go look at a used truck and you look at the engine hours, and well, I don't have a calculator. Hold on, I'll do it. So let's say I'm going to do a calculation here. My old calculator here. I've never used this thing. So let's say the truck has 500,000 miles on it, right? Baseline. You're buying a used truck. Let's say it has 500K on it, and it's got 35,000 hours on it or something. Okay, so let's say the truck has 35,000 hours on it. It's got 500,000 miles. So if you divide that, if you multiply the 35,000 hours times 60 mile an hour average, that's not what I wanted to do. 35,000 is too much. You'd probably be around 10,000. Okay, let me break it down. So 500,000 divided by 60 would be, okay, so if they never idled, this is just an example, okay, if they never idled the truck ever, shut it off as soon as they parked every time, you would probably have about 8,333 hours on the motor. Probably anywhere up to 9,000 hours would be considered normal operating range for hours on the motor for a 500,000 mile truck. Maybe even up to 10,000 hours, okay? Anything above that, they're idling a lot. So they got like 15 to 20,000 hours on the motor at 500K. Now they're idling all the time. And you got to calculate for that wear in the motor. Okay, so even though the truck only has 500K on it, with that extra 5 to 10,000 hours of engine time, you're going to have a lot of things looked at first. And if they didn't get that stuff done before you bought the truck, now hey, this truck is pretty much worn out because it's already got 20,000 hours on it or whatever. It probably needs an overhead, DPF cleaning, all that kind of stuff if it's a newer truck, whatever. But that's just a good example, like 500K, and you can figure that out. Just look at the odometer, okay? Multiply it times 60. I think that's what I did, right? No, divide it by... Forgive me here, I'm worn out, tired, all that kind of crap. So you take the odometer reading, divide it by 60 mile an hour average, and that's a good baseline of where your hours should be, maybe a little bit higher if they had to idle. Can I drive the woodshed? My truck has 421,000 miles and 16,000 hours. That's pretty high, bro. You idle a lot. So let's see here. So if you've got you survive summertime by having an APU. Yeah, so you have a blower, you got to use the PTO all the time. I would be willing to buy a truck up to 500K, but at that point, the interior's starting to get really old, and I'm looking at buying the best equipment for driver comfort. So typically I look at trucks that have less than 250,000 miles on them to buy them used. Now I'm going to keep those trucks well above 500K, but we're going to maintain them and make sure that everything's good. Whenever we have a driver switch out or whatever, make sure that the truck stays clean and good repair 100% as much as possible. But to buy a used truck with over 500,000 miles, you got to really do some digging and make sure that, like this, for example, the amount of idle time used. See, like that truck that's got the 15,000, his truck right there, I probably wouldn't buy that truck because of the idle time. Because hey, that truck's been ran out in the oil field. Well, one, you'll know that because it's got a blower on it. and two, the high amount of engine hours. Now, so an APU, like my APU, it was on a truck before I had. It was on a different truck before I had. It was already used on the woodshed. Okay, so the APU on the woodshed has 37,000 hours on it. Hasn't been rebuilt or nothing, but it's got 37,000 hours on it. So instead of putting all those hours on the truck motor, it got put on the APU, which saves the life of the truck. An APU is way cheaper than a truck motor is. Okay, so especially a used one. So you got to weigh that cost. And it doesn't matter if the APU breaks, because you can still drive with a broken APU. Now, if your motor breaks, guess what? You're in the shop, you're down, you're not making any money. But the APU breaks, who cares? Because you can just run and make up that money and go get it fixed, whatever. No big deal. What type of oil do you use on your Cascadia? Have you ever run into motor issues, and do you plan on rebuild or keeping it? I use a 10W30 semi-synthetic CK4, API CK4. Typically that ends up being a Chevrolet T5 or a Dello, Chevron Dello 10W30. I have tried a full synthetic 5W30 before, but it's not really worth the extra money. So I switched back to 10W30. On this truck, I'm gonna drive the woodshed until she blows up. But here's the thing. For the amount of money it would cost me to rebuild it, I could go probably get 2 new trucks, the down payment for 2 new trucks, right? So I'll probably just go buy another truck, and then I'll rebuild the woodshed later when if I really feel like it. Or just keep it as a parts truck or something, I don't know. Haven't really decided on that yet. I'll cross that bridge when I get there, I guess. Hopefully it doesn't ever blow up, but you know, things don't last forever, so. How much was your financing for your newer truck? I've been getting 10.7%, and I try to explain this to people, like, when you buy one truck at a time, that's what you're gonna get. 10%, 9%, somewhere in there. Somewhere between 9 and 15% is what you're going to look at on a commercial truck loan. That's just what you're going to get. Until you get into actual big bank loans where you're buying 3, 5, 10 trucks at a time. Where you get that line of credit, 500K, 1 million line of credit, is when you start seeing those rates really drop, and also not have to have a down payment anymore. It takes a while to get there. You probably got to be in business, you know, a good 5 years to get that kind of rate when you're buying trucks. So it takes time. Or you got to have a significant cash flow, well above, you know, you're going to have well above 200, 300,000 net coming in. Hey, hold on, guys.
How you doing?
All right.
You were in there talking to me, right?
Yeah.
I told you come when I would call you.
Yeah.
You can put yours in 5, but it's still gonna be a while. But you
okay.
Talk to you at the door when we're ready to go.
This is a dry load, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Door 5.
Yeah. Dock 5.
All right.
We're doing 7 right now. We'll do 6. When you see him fall out, then you know you're getting loaded next.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, man. Got pulling the dock 5. Sorry about that. And the Pro Stars always have this squeaky window, so doesn't matter how new they are, they have that. It's a Pro Star problem. Let's see. She's doing pretty good, man. I was gonna do a repair bill breakdown video. I haven't got the full invoice yet, though. they had a stack of paperwork like this thick, and it was almost all warranty stuff. So, it's not going to be a crazy bill. Back in over here. Damn it! I got to put my shoes on. Didn't really feel like doing that. Put my shoes on. Anyway, if you guys have any other questions, get them in here while I'm backing in, and I'll answer those, and then I gotta go because I gotta lay down. It's getting hot in here. It's at door 5, man. Oh, man. Swing this bitch around so I don't have to blindside it in here. I really do like this 13 speed in this truck though. That's funny. I got backed into a dock before this other prime driver over here, and he was here before me. Haha. Yes, because there is another truck in door 6. My man. Hold on, I'll be back. Yeah. Well, I hope they load it because it's a little bit wet back there. It's a little bit wet back there because I had the trailer washed out like 4 hours ago, but I didn't have it running or anything, so I guess one pull up will do it, huh? Come on, man. Backing it in. Yeah, it's in door 5. I'm in door 5. Oh, good grief, man. All right, let's see. How much profit would you aim for on your second truck of a new fleet to justify the purchase and initiative? Truck around 250K. You're looking anywhere from $100,000 to $120,000. It depends on what features and what spec it is, motor, transmission, interior, all that kind of stuff, what condition it's in, etc. But anywhere from 100 to 120. You might be lucky sometimes to get something under 100, like maybe 85 to 95. But you also have to include interest, okay? If you're going to finance it, you have to include 10% interest on it. More than likely, that's what you're going to get. So, after everything's said and done, if you do 3 years of interest and it's paid off, you're probably going to pay 125, 130, maybe even 140K after everything's said and done. But the truck is going to generate the revenue to pay that. So don't freak out about those numbers, okay? As long as you've got consistent freight that you can run the truck with, that's going to pay enough so you can pay a driver as well, and the truck's going to get paid off from running freight. So that's the whole trick to, that's the whole point of using the financing, is the truck is going to kind of pay itself off because it's running freight, okay? So what I look for is, what I would suggest to use, make sure you have enough freight to cover both trucks, okay? Consistently, okay, for at least 100,000 miles a year for that truck, right? Because that's, you know, on average, a solo driver is going to run 100 to 120,000 miles. 120, probably up to 120,000 miles a year for a solo truck. So as long as you got the freight to cover that, then it makes sense. Okay, we got enough freight to cover this extra truck. Now, do we have the money for the down payment and all that? As long as you have the freight to put in the truck, to put on that truck, and you already have a trailer, or you're going to get a trailer, or you're just using somebody else's trailer, whatever, it doesn't matter. But as long as you can keep it loaded, it makes sense to get another one, in my opinion. And you have somebody that can drive it for you. It's not that hard, in my opinion. It's not that complicated. It's just, do you have the freight? Do you have the driver? The truck is the easy part. Getting the truck is the easy part, honestly. But you don't necessarily base whether it's worth doing it or not on the profit, because 2 trucks is really hard, okay? I started as an LLC. 2 trucks is really hard, okay? Because it's all about, this business is all about volume, okay? You got 2 trucks, one of them goes down, now you're at 50% utilization for your fleet. If you got 100 trucks and one of them goes down, you're at 99% utilization. You see the difference? So, and that's just a really broad explanation of it, but it's all about utilization percentages. When you decide you want to start building a fleet, you want to go from 1 truck to 5 as fast as you can to bring that utilization percentage up. Okay? Now, if you decide, hey, I don't want to have 5 trucks, I only want to have 2, then you want to get that second truck paid off as soon as possible to bring the cash flow up. Or you just run the first truck as hard as you can until you have the cash saved up to go pay cash for your second truck. It all depends on how big you want to grow. Okay? All the information I share is based on what I'm doing, and what my goals, my personal goals are for the business. So if it doesn't fit what you're doing, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't mean what you're doing is wrong. It's just not what I'm doing. Okay, so um, but all of that depends on how big you actually want to grow. And I think it's kind of an undersight for a lot of people. They just say, "Oh, I just want a small business. I just want a small business." Like, why? I want a big business. I want something that generates a lot of money, a lot of cash flow. One, so I can help other people create more careers, help other people become successful, have systems building that allow other people to go to a company, my company, that is actually going to treat them right. And that ultimately that actually helps the industry in the best possible way. Okay, because I actually like this industry a little bit. um, so that's my way of giving back. So when people say, "Oh, I just want a small business," it kind of throws me off a little bit. I'm like, so you're just thinking about yourself then, because that's not creating any jobs. It's not actually. I mean, sure, you're getting your piece, which there's nothing wrong with getting your piece of the American pie. Go get your piece of the American pie, but what are you doing once you get your piece? Nothing. You're just wasting the money on whatever. Probably. Or you're probably not making enough money anyway to really have anything except for a house and a car, or a motorcycle here, or a motorcycle there, whatever. Bunch of toys, but what else do you, I mean, where's the sense of accomplishment in that? Where's the sense of challenge? Where's the hustle, man? Like, I like to be challenged. I like to hustle. I like to work hard and push myself to do better. And so when people I'm not on that mindset of I just want to sit back and relax all the time and chill and not do nothing. I can't do that. Like, I'm not wired that way. So when somebody tells me, "Oh, I just want one truck or just two," and it's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but what are you doing after that? Because I would be bored out of my freaking mind. um, if you're breaking even, you're paying the truck off. But here's the thing. Some weeks you'll break even, some weeks you won't with two trucks. Because guess what? That driver's going to want to go home for an extended period of time. Every few weeks they're going to want to be at home to chill with their family, whatever. They want to go home and spend time with their family, spend their money, whatever. So the driver's going to be off. Those weeks are going to be really, really hard unless that equipment's already paid for. Because you got to think about it. You're still paying the insurance, okay? You're still paying cargo insurance, tractor insurance, all that, plus the truck note and any fuel that they had to purchase, whether they ran or not. So whenever a driver takes a day off or whatever, and you only got two trucks, you just dropped to 50% utilization, and you have to be running to be at 50%. If you decide to shut down for a day and your second truck is shut down for a day, you're at a whopping, you're not making any money. That's $2,000 in revenue potential just gone. You got to figure it like every truck you have, every day that they're parked is $1,000 in theory, $1,000 in gross revenue potential lost. Now, that's why you make the money you make when you're running, to cover those days off for each driver and the downtime for shop repairs, all that kind of stuff. But you got to think about it. If you're not running for a whole day, that's anywhere from $750 to $1,000 or more. That's the minimum, right? That you want to be making a day is at least $750 a day per truck. But if you got an operation where you're able to make those, $2,000 and $3,000 short hops, you could potentially lose $2,000 or $3,000 a day per truck in gross revenue if it's not running. So with two trucks, that makes it really difficult. So you got to run your own numbers. I don't know what your numbers are, but it's still worth doing it in the long run to me, because even if you break even, well, you provided a job, that person's feeding their family off that money, you're paying the truck off, and hopefully still setting it aside a little bit of money to go buy another one. So, but you have to figure out whether or not it's worth it. And it can't just be about the money. Obviously, money is the most important thing because this is business and you got to make a profit. But if you focus just on the money, you're going to miss the big picture of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Hello from Australia. What's going on? Absolutely, you would be. I mean, any truck can be a good truck if it's been properly maintained. To answer Scott Fish, as long as the truck's been properly maintained, it doesn't matter. 5 trucks down, 9,995 to go. Pretty much, man. It's a challenge. I like the challenge of growing a fleet. I like the challenge of being the best damn trucking company out here. That's a challenge. It's a goal to be the best. Okay? Yeah, there's some competitiveness in there, but it's a challenge to see, okay, what's my true potential? That's what I'm trying to find. What's my true potential? You don't know until you try. So why not shoot for the moon? Okay? Why shoot for the treetops if you can shoot for the moon? You know, all these cliches, whatever. Aim small, miss small, whatever. You know. So I think way up here when I'm thinking about my business. I think really big. Because you got to look at it. Just from an age perspective, I'm 31 years old. And this is a good example. Sam Walton, okay. Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, did not start Walmart until he was 44 years old. I'm 31. Let that sink in. So, as long as my health stays okay and I stop getting food poisoning and crap, technically I have time to make mistakes and grow and all that. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's really not. It just takes effort. That's not a bad idea to have a part-time driver to slip seat when drivers go home. The problem with that in an OTR operation is all my drivers live in different states, so it doesn't really work for us right now. You know, maybe in the future that would work, but as an OTR operation, it doesn't really work out. Anyway, appreciate you guys stopping by today. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message, whatever, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So, with that being said, you guys stay safe out there. If you're catching this on the replay, as always, feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll answer those as soon as possible as well. So, stay safe out there. All that stuff. One last check here. All right. Try not to die.